Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. This is Transfers Live. That is Joe Smith. Yes, I am wearing sunglasses because you advised me it looks good.
You look really nice.
Do not look weird though, people.
No.
Why are you wearing sunglasses indoors?
No one will have even noticed them if you didn't pay attention to it.
Oh,
Yeah.
do you reckon? All right, let me see if I can carry. Do you know what? I think I'm going to have to take them off already because I'm struggling to see the screen with them on.
Right, well,
so that's just failed, hasn't
they
it?
are prescription.
Are they prescription?
No, they're not. Absolutely not. What we're talking about today, we're talking about Mason Mount, new bid been put in. We'll go over that. The big one, there's a talk that Manchester United are in for Declan Rice. It looked like he's going to be going to Arsenal. There is talk this evening that United may look for some kind of swap deal. McTominay, Maguire involved, plus cash for Declan Rice. Are United in the race for Rice? Is Rice on the menu? The price is Rice. Rice, baby. Maybe.
Yeah.
Nice. Etc. Come up with your own Rice puns in the comments. Yeah. What else are we talking about? Great question. Scroll down, Ethan. I'll tell you what we're talking about. Fulham want Fred.
No!
Harry Kane hopes could be resurrected for Manchester United. It's all kicking off, Jay.
Also, Onana. Oh, no. That one. Yeah?
Yeah.
We could be in for him. Bit of breaking news in the last hour. That it looks like David De Gea is on his way out, and if he is, then Onana is moving to the forefront of Manchester United's thoughts, which is all a bit weird, because how much money have you actually got to spend? Yeah. I'm not sure about how true any of these stories are, but I'll tell you something. If we get Rice ahead of Arsenal, if we actually scupper this deal and get him, then I will celebrate that like it's Moscow 2008 all over again. Yeah. Honestly, because the only reason I say that is not because I particularly think Declan Rice is that amazing. It will just be hilarious to watch the meltdown from Arsenal fans because they are insufferable. Get involved in the comments and the chat. Big thanks to Whitterbird, who's gifted 5 Stretford Paddock memberships straight off the bat. Thank you. Ross Murphy acknowledging that as well. DJ Swiss Ivory says, nice like Rice. Carl Gochi says, Rice, baby.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah, it works.
There's got to be a lot. Give me your Rice jokes.
We could have gone for Tonali at BMW Racing. Thanks, Whitbird, for generous gifting. Floyd Man says, Jay, we're losing the best English Scotland player. What? Oh, right. Yeah, you can work that one out. I think I know what you're saying, but I'm not sure. So when I'm not 100% sure, I just panic. Right, let's talk about Mason Mount.
Yeah.
M&M, as he's known to his mates.
Yeah, I think we talked about it a little bit this afternoon, but let's go through it again.
Yeah, me and Scotty spoke about it around our way, but me and thee can talk about it as well.
Yeah.
Go on.
Second Mount bid, United have submitted an offer worth up to £50 million for Chelsea midfielder Mason Mount. The fresh United bid consists of a £45 million initial fee plus £5 million in add-ons, but Chelsea have countered this and requested a £60 million fee plus £5 million in add-ons. An agreement is edging closer, but it is not yet in place. Mount has a year left. Chelsea are keen to comply with England international's wishes, and Manchester United will not keep improving their offer. Weird though, because he does say there that they sort of will improve their offer again, if you know what I mean. I don't. When he says not keep, does that mean they won't do it 4, 5, 6 times, or that they're not going to do it again? Because it does seem as though an agreement is edging closer, which suggests United will improve their offer. So I guess he's not saying we won't improve it at all, but I think he's saying we're not going to spend all summer adding £1 million on here and there, I would assume.
Yeah, it is a bit weird, isn't it? You said it, I think, the other night when you were saying that what was probably going to happen is Chelsea just keep saying we want 65 million quid or 60 plus 5, and we go no, and then eventually we go yes after increasing it £5 million at a time.
Well, in fairness, that fee that we spoke about was between 70 and 80 that was being reported then. So this is down to 65 already, including add-ons. I think we're probably, I mean, I'm not a businessman, I'm not a negotiator. I reckon we're going to see a 55 plus 5 do the business here.
Do you reckon?
I think somewhere in that region, that's 10 million more than we want to spend. It's 5 million less than Chelsea want to receive. Somewhere in that region, either 50 plus 5, 50 plus 10, or 55 plus 5. I think a total of 60 million, I think, would probably be enough to get him, and I think United would probably be willing to get that. And I know it's on the upper end of what most people would want to pay, but I've seen a lot of people, and I'm not speaking for anyone, but just what we see on social media, we put polls out and questions. I think a lot of people seem comfortable with 50 for Mount, and I think 60 is the upper limit, but 60 doesn't feel like we've been having the piss taken out of us. It's a lot of money, but I don't think it's ridiculous. If it's 65, 70, you're looking at too much, but I think 60 is like Okay, it's a lot, but he's got potential. I think that suits all parties, and I think in the next, hopefully before pre-season, we can come to an agreement.
The thing with this is, right, I'm not even overly bothered about this. I know I've said in the past, like, I don't want to get paying too much for him, and there's a whole different perception of a player that's 50 million to where there's 70 million.
Yeah.
Look at how Sancho's treated, for example. I think it was 72 million. He wouldn't get that amount of scrutiny and stick if he was 50. He'd still get some because he plays for Manchester United, but I think people use it because he's on those lists when you do the top 10 transfers of English players or whatever to the Premier League, or whatever players to the Premier League, he's in there. The only thing with this for me is, let's say, for example, we've got 150 million quid in the budget. That is what we've got. Let's say, for example, I'm not saying that is the case, but if we've got 150 million quid, we need a striker and we need a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
We're going to get to both of those topics in a minute. So if we're going to spend 60 odd million quid on Mason Mount, that leaves 85 or whatever million quid to get a striker and a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
That isn't easy. Because, okay, maybe you can get a keeper for 35, 40 million, but are you getting a striker for 40 million? That's difficult. So this is my concern. If this is taking money out of the budget and we've still got to get those two big positions, arguably the two most important positions in the picture, either end of it, for a club like Manchester United as well, who always get our pants pulled down a little bit, it ain't going to be easy to do that if this is coming out of that budget. That's my main concern.
Yeah.
Not the fact of, if we had, say we had, I don't know, 400 million quid to spend this summer, I wouldn't be bothered if we spent 70 million on him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be as bothered. I'd always care a little bit because, you don't want to be ludicrous with transfers. But the overriding factor for me here is this taking money away from other areas which are more important? Because there's an argument that Mason Mount doesn't even get in the team. He might do, he might not. If everyone's fit, Eriksen might get in ahead of him.
Yeah.
Whereas we could be going into next season with no established goalkeeper and no established number 9, which would be absolutely insane.
Yeah.
That's my worry.
I think the hope is that the rumours I've seen and the journalists we've spoken to is that 100 to 150 million that seems to be the reported amount that United have to spend this summer, that seems to be before sales. So I think, and we'll get to the Declan Rice story in a minute, that involves a potential swap or swap element to it. I think if we could get, let's say we could raise another 100 million through, Martial, McTominay or Fred, Maguire, who else could we sell? Elanga, Brandon Williams, a few of these players that you might get, Donny van de Beek, you might be able to get 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 million for, I don't know exactly, but somewhere in that region. Then this makes more sense. If we can buy Mason Mount for 60 million and still have 120 million left, you can get a striker for 80 or 90, you can get a goalie for 30, and then that would make sense. But yeah, like you said, hopefully United know where the budget has to go after this and we're not making a mistake. But I do think that he's a good player. I think he's a great age. I think he fits in with what Ten Hag likes in a player. And I think that he would be a very good signing. The next one, let's move on.
Sorry, can I just do some comments before
absolutely.
we move on? Then we can crack on. Just in, I said Christian Scott Thomas there. Kieran Scott Thomas T says, how are we doing, lads? Cracking content as always, thank you. If you could have 3 signings this summer, who should they be? Let's say £150 million budget, UTFP, 150 million quid. If I could have 3 signings on that 150 million quid. All right, let's do this, yeah? 150 million. I'll go... This is difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, 150 I think is too little. Can we say 200?
No, let's stick to what he said. Let's do this. Let's make it hard for ourselves. Right, who's the kid? What, Thuram, is he on a free?
Yeah.
So let's get Thuram in on a free.
Yeah.
Onana for 40 million.
Was it 3 transfers he said?
3 signings, right.
Right,
Onana,
so you're wasting one on a free there.
No. Right, Thuram.
All right, Thuram on a free.
Right.
That's 1. 2 left.
Onana for 40, 50 million maybe.
110 left.
I've got 110 left.
Yeah.
And I'll bring in Victor Osimhen.
Okay. No midfielder.
No.
Okay.
If I've only got 3, that's what I'm doing.
That's fine.
So I've got my striker and my backup striker because I've always said we need 2 strikers this summer.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And unless we've only got 150 million, then I would go with. I don't know because Kane's not gettable, is it?
Well, if Kane was gettable, I'd probably go for him, but I don't know. We will get to Kane in a minute.
Yeah, because that's the question, isn't it? I'd probably get a keeper. I don't know who. Maybe I'd have to. I haven't done enough scouting, but Onana or Costa or someone like that for 40 million. I'd get Kane for 100 million. and then for 10 million I'd get just James Ward-Prowse or something.
James Ward-Prowse.
I don't know. I think I'd prioritise a top striker over anything. I think, but I do think we need a midfielder as well. Definitely.
Right, just quickly, yes or no answer.
Yeah.
Are we going to get Mason Mount?
Yes.
Right, Sam.
I think we'll get him. Do you think we'll get him?
I do think we will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just worry. I do worry, like I say. Because we go into this new season and we've got Mason Mount and one other, then we're in problems. We're in problems. We're in trouble.
Yeah, me too. I genuinely think I can see him. I can see how he works on the pitch for a Ten Hag team. I get it. I can see it with him. And maybe I'm just being optimistic, and I like thinking positively about potential new transfers. I do, because why wouldn't you? That's the whole point. That's why we love transfers, because there's this endless potential. Before someone's played a game, they could be anything. They could win you a Champions League, whatever. I see how it works. Like, I think everyone could, it's not like I've got some vision. He's good on the ball. He works hard. He's got a finish in him. He actually does get goals. He's had multiple, double digits goals and assists in the Premier League, not just in all competitions.
Yeah.
In the league alone, the season before last, his tackling stats are sort of better than you would think for someone with that kind of output. He's a hard worker. He's just a good player. He's not, completely electric. He's not someone that sets the world on fire like a Neymar or someone like that. But he's a very hard-working, industrious player who actually has output at the end of it. I think that really works for Ten Hag. I think he'd like that.
No, I get it. I mean, I was never a big fan of it. It wasn't my preferred choice. But I understand your point. And I do like the fact that if Eric Ten Hag wants him, I think there's a good reason for that, and I understand that. And also, Eric Ten Hag tends to get the best out of players. You've seen it with Marcus, you've seen it with Luke Shaw, you've seen it with Aaron Wan-Bissaka even. I'd go as far, to a lesser degree, even McTominay, I think, has played some of his best football under Eric Ten Hag, especially early on in the season. So, if he wants him, I think he's a sort-time manager who can get the best out of someone. And Mason Mount's ceiling is quite high. For me, there's an issue around consistency. Yeah. I think he can go missing, and I don't want to be all like, oh, I love everything about Mason Mount because we're going to sign him, because I don't. Yeah. But if we can sort that out, then he's a good signing.
Do you know something, before we move on, because I think I want to talk about Declan Rice next, but when you talk about consistency, there are, like usually in any given team, in a top team, there will be 2 or 3 players that are so consistent you play them every week no matter what. Kevin De Bruyne is one, Haaland is one, Ederson is one. I know he's had ups and downs actually, so maybe that's not a great example, but Alisson is one at Liverpool, Salah is one at Liverpool. Even his inconsistent, he scored 30 goals this season, Salah.
And he went under the radar.
That's what I'm saying. Harry Kane is one. When they are fit, you play them every week. Rashford is one, Bruno is one, and I think Martinez will prove to be one as well. But you look through the other, let's use City as the example because they're winning everything. Bernardo Silva has long stretches out the team. Phil Foden has barely played since Christmas. Jack Grealish has been in and out of that squad a lot of times since he joined there.
Pep gave De Bruyne a rest because he thought his levels were dropping.
Exactly. So even
6 weeks,
Mr.
I think, he was in and out.
Had a big rest. Gundogan comes in for the end of the season. Ruben Diaz, he's injured, but he also struggled to get in the team this season. Like, Kyle Walker doesn't play every week because...
Didn't start in the Champions League final.
We need the ability for Christian Eriksen to have a bad month and someone comes in that is as good or better. We need the ability for the striker, the centre-back, the left-back, whoever, to have a bad month and someone come in who is more than capable of replacing him. At the minute, if Casemiro is injured, it's McTominay. The level is too big a gap there. If Eriksen is injured, it's Fred. And, Fred does some things better than Eriksen, but in terms of trying to hold on to possession and control the game, the gap is too big. The gap between Mount and Eriksen is a surmountable one. Whereas some of the other ones, once the replacement comes in, United the levels drop massively, and we can't have that if we want to win trophies.
No, I hear you, because just looking at City as an example, and they've been doing this for a few years. If you look at likes of Gundogan, played over 30 Premier League games. Grealish played 28, Rodri played 36, Kevin De Bruyne played 32, Alvarez played 30, Silva played 34, Riyad Mahrez played 30. I mean, these are all players, Foden played 32, who are almost operating in similar positions. Do you know what I mean? It's like you've got so many players there who've played almost 30 or over 30 Premier League games.
And another player there, John Stones.
They can't all start.
How many games has John Stones played in the Premier League?
Last season.
Yeah.
He says it 23, which is surprising.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Toward the end of the season, who were City's most important players? It was John Stones and it was Gundogan. They were literally, I would say, City's 2 most important players for the last month of the season. Certainly the FA Cup and the Champions League wins.
Yeah.
And neither of them are playing first choice every single week. I know Gundogan's left now, so they're going to have to replace him. But United, if Rashford doesn't score, we don't win. That is a horrendous bottleneck in terms of the production of goals for Manchester United. And you know, I'm not sure Mason Mount's going to come in and replace Marcus Rashford, but he might bring you 15 goals next season. Yeah. We need people who can chip in.
We need somebody. You're right. Yeah. Just a couple of super chats before we move on.
Yes.
Shonak Mukherjee says listening to this with the spliff is therapeutic. David says, which keeper do you prefer, Onana or Costa?
I've seen more of Onana, so I think the problem. I don't know. Costa, I think, has a higher ceiling, but Onana's currently more exciting.
Okay. I'll go with Onana.
Yeah.
Colin MUFC says, screw transfer news. I only tune in to see Joe's drip.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's a little double denim piece today.
Yeah, a few people commented on that as well.
You started the episode with horrendous sunglasses on.
Whose horrendous sunglasses are these?
Well, they're mine, but they're not horrendous.
I didn't realise they had the old
tortoiseshell.
Yeah, the old Bet Gilroy effect there.
Who's Bet Gilroy?
Our older viewers.
Is that a new sponsor for the show?
Bet Gilroy.
Bet Gilroy. You get three free spins at Bet Gilroy.
She was the barmaid in the Rovers Return Man in the 80s. What's the matter with you? You know anything?
Right, Rice. Here he is. United join Rice race.
Yes, right. United join Rice race. Yeah,
Rice race.
Yeah. United... Why is that not saying Reds? Oh, yeah. I heard the groans from behind the production desk.
Yeah.
Eh? Honestly.
Reds. Can we think of a J that's an R that means join?
Rejoin.
Yeah. Reds.
Rejoin Rice race.
Rice race.
See? Alliteration.
Yeah.
It's the most important part of language. Anyway, carry on.
United are considering a move for Declan Rice by proposing, hear this, player plus cash deal.
Yes.
Okay, the deal could involve Harry Maguire or Scott McTominay. Arsenal's latest bid of 90 million minus 75 million. No, 90 million, 75 million plus 15 in add-ons spread over 5 years was rejected by West Ham on Tuesday. And now United are considering whether to make a move. There is interest from West Ham in McTominay, while manager David Moyes is a huge admirer of Maguire. It is understood Maguire's wage expectations may prohibit a move to West Ham. If he could be persuaded to accept the transfer, while it remains to be seen whether McTominay would be enthusiastic about making the switch. And that is Jason Burt from The Telegraph.
I'd love it if Eric said I just played hardball here.
Go on.
And just said, listen, you either go to West Ham or you're in the resis for the rest of your contract.
Who's that to? Both of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I guarantee you, forget about going to the Euros with England or Scotland. That ain't happening. Because you ain't going to be playing for Manchester United Football Club anymore. So either go to West Ham or you don't play football.
I've got a question for you, Jay.
That's how you should go about it.
Who is the current leading top goal scorer in the Euros qualification? For all teams?
All time?
No. This qualifying pool for the Euros next season.
Yeah.
Who is the leading goal scorer currently?
I know. Is it a Manchester United player?
It is.
Garnacho.
It's not because obviously Argentina. It is Scott McTominay. Now, if you speak to my client like that again, you will be the one joining the Rice race, and by that I mean something to do with rice, the food though, in a way. Yes. Yes?
Yeah.
You will be some sort of grain-based pulp.
That's like I told you the time my daughter looked at a packet of Uncle Ben's and shouted Daddy when she was a kid.
Right, well, I wasn't going to say that. So let it be clear that when you said that was nothing like that. It just reminded you of it. Can that be stated for the record?
What did you get? Yeah, that's fine.
Right.
Just to clarify, Joe didn't say that. My daughter did, and I brought it up.
Thank you.
I love the fact when I ask for some hours, or when we suggest some hours, people will just say loads of hours.
Yeah, what we got?
We had Rouse.
Ooh, yeah.
Radical.
No.
Liam Clark there with Radical.
Doesn't fit.
Radical
Reds join Rice race. That would have worked.
Radical Reds join Rice race.
Yeah.
What's radical about the Reds though?
Well, because it's quite a radical idea.
Right.
Sneaking him off the fingertips of Arsenal.
Said reignite.
Yeah,
Nick L said recruit.
Ooh, hello.
Stephanie Griffith, raid.
United raid Rice race. That's very nice.
Yes.
That's the best one so far. Do you like Declan Rice? What are your thoughts on him? Are there too many videos of him looking silly whilst not playing football on the internet for us to buy him? I'm talking about the one where he's woken up from that nap and he looks like, first of all, he looks like, but he isn't. He looks like he's on all the drugs in the world.
Yeah.
And secondly, he looks a bit like a loser. What do you make of that?
I just think he's a proper Cockney. I think he'll go to Arsenal. I just think he absolutely reeks of being a Cockney. I just think he's destined to stay in London. I really do. I'd love it if we got him. I'd love it to beat them. Just because Arsenal are they think it's going to happen. They're dead excited. Party's going to go. Rice is going to come in. He's even better. All this hype and all this excitement, the way that Arsenal fans do. So to get him would be amazing. It'd be like when we got Van Persie off him and they were trying to pretend that he weren't that great after all, even though he helped us win the league straight away. So I just don't see it happening. He's a good player.
Yeah.
I'm not that bothered if we don't, to be honest with you. This deal, if it happened, would make loads of sense. If we could get Rice and move McTominay or Maguire on, or both of them in an ideal world, because let's face it, I ain't got a problem with either Maguire or McTominay, but they're not at the levels we need them to be at. They're not. No. Like, if they were, we wouldn't be getting rid of him.
No.
Harry Maguire's the club captain, right? And he's fourth choice.
Yeah.
Luke Shaw never played left centre-back for United until last season when he kept playing there when Martinez was out or when even when Varane was out sometimes, because Eric Ten Hag preferred him over Harry Maguire. Yeah. Scott McTominay, I like Scott McTominay. He does a lot of good things, but he's not the levels you want him to be. Otherwise, he'd be starting for Manchester United. He really would.
The thing with Maguire as well is there's sort of a reminder and a relic of the Solskjaer, the now failed Solskjaer era, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. Some players are just tied to it, aren't they? Yeah. And he's tied to it. Brian Kelvin says, zero interest in Rice. If he was Irish, he'd be 30 million and no one would be talking about him. The most overhyped, overrated. Shaunak Mukherjee says, thank you, Joe Christ, for entertaining us. Gokul V says, it's a rip-off. If they get McTominay and Maguire plus cash for Rice, we should do that for Casado. SK says, if we were competent, we could do this deal. Moyes wants both players.
I think the thing with Rice is, I think he's one of those players that, I'm not saying he is as good or that he even will have the same kind of thing to him, but I think the best case scenario, if United would sign him, is that he's almost like a Carrick, where the players who watch him the fans who watch him week in, week out, love him, think he's incredible. Like, I know West Ham don't have a lot of great players to compare him to, certainly in the squad at the minute, but he seems like the sort of player that, if you watch him, you like him. If you don't watch him, or you just see highlights, you think, what does he do? He's shit. Like, he's a bit clunky. He doesn't look particularly graceful on the ball. He can pass a bit, but he's not world class. He's not like Casemiro levels of defensive ability. But I think he just sort of brings things together really well. And I think he might be the sort of person that once you get him in your team, you go, oh shit, that's what he does. He's just always there, or he's always popping. Do you know what I mean? I think he might be someone that's hard to see how good he is because of the position he plays and because he's not very flash, and he's, you know, Paul Scholes, you could see the passing ability straight away. Roy Keane, you can see just that energy and that, you know, up and down, hard work, tackling, passing, all of that. Rice is a bit like, what does he do? Maybe that's because he's not great, but I think there's a chance that he's actually really good.
I think he's got, like, in terms of interceptions or something, he's the highest in the league, or one of the highest in the league.
That is very Carrick.
Yeah.
The thing that Carrick, Carrick is the best player I've ever seen at defensive positioning.
Yeah, his
I've never seen anyone where if your player has got the ball, wherever they are, he will be between the ball and the player you want to pass to. Yeah. I've never seen anyone as good at that as him. Yeah. He was unbelievable at that. So interceptions is I guess a stat that shows he's in the right place at the right time. So I would like him. I think, but he's not Mount. Who is he? Is he a backup for Casemiro, or is Mount sort of a backup for Eriksen?
I don't know. Maybe I think if you're going to spend a lot of money on him, or the equivalent of a lot of money, maybe you change the system a little bit and you have a double pivot. You have him and Casemiro alongside each other, and maybe you have Bruno in front of them. That's your three midfield, if you will. Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, the one thing I will say about this, the reason I don't see it happening as well is not just because he stinks of staying in London. I also think this doesn't seem like a deal for a player like this, who's a big name player, who's been talking of him leaving West Ham for quite some time now, that you sort of cobble together in a week. And you go, well, we'll get this player and we'll give you that, we'll give you some dough. And we've got to convince this player who doesn't want to go, so I'm going to pay off part of his wages, and then the other one we'll convince him to go. Whereas Arsenal have pretty much gone, right, we want Rice, this is what we're going to pay, let's make it happen. I think part of the reason it's not happened yet is that West Ham have been linked with Paulinho from Fulham, Fulham are saying, well, we want 75 million quid for him because he cost 30 million, I think, and he's had an absolutely phenomenal season. Yeah. And then West Ham are looking at it going, well, that's basically all our Declan Rice money. If we only take that from Arsenal, that's not worth it for us. So I think that might be holding it up a little bit, where they're going, if we're going to sell him, we need to get enough money so we can go out and get someone like Palhinha and have money left over. Yeah. So I think that's the issue here. I like Jason Burt, and he's not one for talking rubbish, but I'd be very, very surprised if we could get this over the line, especially with the issues we've got around money and the ownership and all that. We don't really know how much money is there to spend, and the fact you've got two players who are both probably a little bit reluctant to leave, because West Ham, I know they're in the Europa League, now they just won the Europa Conference.
They could get relegated next season.
If this was Spurs or even a Villa, I think it'd be a lot easier, because it's a club that are in and around near the Champions League spots. Good chance they could make a stint for the Champions League places. Newcastle are already in it. Yeah. If it was someone like that, it'd be an easy sell. West Ham, it's a little bit more difficult. Get involved in the chat in the comments. Fergal McClement says, Joe said it before, what's the plan? If we don't get one type of player, we go for another completely different type of player. Since Joe said that, I've worried, so you've worried him, but you're talking sense.
Mount and Rice aren't the same type of player, are they?
No.
Mount is more like Eriksen. Rice isn't really like Casemiro, but is more like Casemiro. So what's the priority here? I don't know.
Doc Rock says, Joe is correct. Rice is like O'Shea, an amazing utility player who you don't talk about much, but saved the day so many times over the course of his career. He shows up and puts in the work. Hashtag Aloha. SK says 2 players for West Ham is actually a better deal, considering once teams know West Ham have 90 million, they'll get mugged off on prices.
I'm just trying to think of big signings where, like, a player that's worth a lot of money, like Declan Rice is clearly worth 75 million plus. You know, you're looking at a player that's in and around the 90 million quid mark here, aren't we? Yeah. When's the last time a player who was worth that much was part of a swap deal? The only one I can think of is, it was 13, 14 years ago, when Barcelona paid, was it 30 million plus Eto'o for Ibrahimovic. Like, something like that. Is that the last one on this scale?
No,
it's like part money for a big player, not like, we saw Sanchez and Mkhitaryan, but that was a straight swap and they were both shit. Like, not shit, but do you know what I mean? Like, Mkhitaryan was struggling.
We didn't realise how bad Sanchez was, to be fair, but I get your point.
What I'm saying is, it's a very rare structure, but maybe that point of getting players in is actually good for West Ham, because McTominay and Maguire definitely both start for West Ham.
There is a scenario where...
And you get them for maybe
Let's put it this way. There's a scenario where West Ham get 90 million for Declan Rice, and they went out and they spent 30 million on Harry Maguire and 25 million on Scott McTominay, right? That's a scenario. Yeah. That's 55 million, that leaves them 35 million left over. Yeah. So is that much different than United going, OK, we'll give you 30 million on them 2 players?
But I think West Ham could probably get more. I think they could probably get 50 million in those 2 players.
All right, then, OK.
So effectively decreasing what they're paying for United players, they can get their replacement in McTominay. He's not as good, but he's a similar style of player to Rice.
And also as well,
and they're not getting...
West Ham aren't going to invest all the Declan Rice money in the team. No. That ain't going to happen, really, is it? There's probably going to be... They probably aren't going to spend money because of the Europa League, and they do spend a little bit of money, West Ham.
They obviously spend a fuckload of money every match day on
bubbles,
soapy water.
Soapy water.
Yeah, how much fairy liquid do you think they're going through up to? And all those... It's not nothing, is it?
Academy of Football.
Because I know they get Fairy Platinum as well.
Do they?
Yeah, there's a time they had to go down to Lidl's own brand. Right. And the bubbles were lacklustre, to say the least. Yeah. They were popping in children's eyes, whereas now, the Fairy Platinums... The bubbles will fly...
Is that Fairy Platinum? That is sick.
They need it because that's the only way the bubbles fly so high they touch the sky.
Ah, right, okay.
You know what I mean? Before they were flopping and landing on the pitch. Now they fly so high they touch the sky. Wow, unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. Right, let's get into the next one.
Keeping them in Fairy Platinum, mate. Platinum. The fuck is this?
Who was that guy? The guy that was fighting all the fans.
Don't even know.
Do you see it when West Ham played in Europe? Was it the Alkmaar fans? And they were all trying to get up the stairs. And he was trying to get to like the players' family section, and he was just stood there with a load of bubbles, blowing them at the fans, and just keeping them at bay, like
that. Everyone knows Alkmaar fans famously can't get through Fairy Platinum.
Yeah, and he was like,
no, because they're grease-based.
Exactly,
aren't they?
And he fended them off. Do you know what I mean? Until the cavalry arrived. It was amazing.
That's like fucking Stalingrad or something. If we wait long enough, the Alkmaar fans will freeze over. And then we can get the players' families out to safety, easily. just fucking wait.
They were
for
just
them.
like
and then
engrossed by these fairy platinum
And then what you do
bubbles.
is you get a barrier of bubble blowing bastards around the bottom of them,
Yes.
essentially penning them in, stopping any kind of transport links or resupplies getting to the out-of-our fans with just a big barrier of bubbles. And that's how the West Ham fans defeated. All the great wars that the West Ham fans have won. It was a sort of bubble-based defence structure. And that will get the job done eventually on the continent.
Exactly. Do you know what I mean?
It always has. It
How do you
always
think
will.
they're the Europa Conference winners?
Exactly.
It's thanks to those bubbles.
Fulham want Fred.
No.
What about Fulham fancy Fred?
Yeah.
Hey? You like a pun as much as the next Geordie. And yet what we're seeing tonight is close but no, sig.
It's almost there.
Yeah. Fulham want to sign Man United midfielder Fred. But the Brazilians' 20 million price tag is too high. What? How is it? Everyone costs 60 million now. How is Fred not worth 20 million? The Brazilian international, who has 1 year remaining, I get this, on his contract, won't be offered a renewal, is valued by United around £20 million. However, that is more than Fulham are prepared to pay, and United will likely have to reduce their asking price to conclude a deal. Fred, 30, is reportedly willing to join Fulham and work under their head coach Marco Silva in the Premier League next season. They triggered a 1 year extension last December in order to ensure they received some money for him this summer. Thoughts?
I like Fred. I do. Part of me feels like there is a role for him at United. I still feel like there's certain games you can bring him in and he can do a job for you.
Yeah.
But I think if we're going to start being ruthless and if we need to sell to buy, and if we can get anywhere near 20 million for him, I know it's not a lot of money, then maybe we do need to move him on. And I think, for me, for Fulham, he'll do a good job for him. He really will. Look at Andres Pereira. I know Pereira's a lot younger, but Pereira, well, a bit younger. Pereira, just wasn't happening for him at United at all.
No.
And yet he's gone to Fulham and he's done really well. And I think Fred could go into Fulham, start for him every week and do really well. Especially as well, if Fulham are going to lose, say, Palhinha, I know it's a different type of player, but if they need reinforcements in midfield, then he could be one of them. So I think there could be some movement here. I think if they were to come in, maybe 15 million, say, that'd be a good deal for them and a decent deal for us.
And this is Joe Smith's speculation here, right?
Go on.
The writer of this, and I don't know if it was in the same article originally, but regardless, once again, Jason Burt from The Telegraph. Now, I've watched Moneyball, okay, the film.
Yeah, I have.
Brad Pitt, Jonah plays. Hill, that's it. Is there a scenario where we've sort of gone, right, so end goal, we want Declan Rice.
Yeah.
If West Ham sell Declan Rice, they might want Palhinha.
Yeah.
If Fulham sell Palhinha, they need a midfielder.
Yeah.
Fulham, would you like Fred? That way, Man United give Fulham Fred.
Yeah.
Fulham give West Ham Palhinha.
Yeah.
West Ham give Man United Declan Rice.
Right.
Do you think that is a circle that we might be looking at as well? Sort of, if we rang West Ham and went, well, we want Palhinha, but they want 90 million because they need to replace him. Right, we'll replace him for you.
Yeah.
Do you think that's possible?
It is. It is possible. I mean, I think. Do you know what? It won't happen, but I'd even have Palhinha at United.
Yeah.
I would. If there was a deal there, I'd have it. I'm still fuming, we never got Moussa Dembele from Fulham.
I know.
Back in the day.
Only 13 years ago, but you still...
I still think about that at least twice a day.
Yeah.
Like, he came to Old Trafford and he absolutely smashed it. And then about a month later, we sold them Berbatov and he went to Spurs. And it was such a tap in that. I don't know why we didn't do it.
Yeah.
Honestly, he was quality. He was underrated. Yeah, that could work. There could be some shenanigans going on here.
Yeah.
I think this is where you need someone who can get on the phones and make some deals happen.
Well, this is the thing. I would bet, and this is just me speculating based on assuming that what Jason Burt is saying is true, that we won't see McTominay go to West Ham and Fred go to Fulham. I think it's one or the other. I think United go in, we'll help you replace... So if West Ham are like, no, we definitely want Palhinha, we'll try and give Fulham Fred. And if they go, actually, we can replace Rice for McTominay, then we'll give them that. I don't think we'll see both of these deals happen because I think I think even this relies on Rice coming to United.
Can United
That's just
afford
speculation.
to let two midfielders go?
No, I don't think so. Because we need to sign two then. Because we're not particularly heavy on midfielders, are we, at this point?
No, we're
Especially if you consider Donny van de Beek either gone or as good as gone.
Yeah.
Then there's literally Bruno, who, fingers crossed, but at some point cannot continue to play 70 games a season. He's played 70 games this year, Jay. He's played the most games of any footballer in the world this
unreal,
season.
isn't it?
6,000 minutes he's played.
And he's still going. He's still like performing.
Did you see? It was unbelievable for
That's
Portugal
what I mean.
the other day.
It's not even like he's knackered and playing like someone's knackered.
At some
he's
point,
mint.
he's going to get to the point where he has an injury, he needs some time off, something will happen. We've got then what do? You push Eriksen up there. Then it's like if Fred and McTominay are gone, there's no one in midfield. So we have to keep one of them and still sign someone else. So I can't see Fred and McTominay both going.
Darren Cox says Rabiot might be coming on a free. Yeah, we have been linked with Rabiot, so that could be someone coming in who's a little bit more long term and arguably a little bit more effective than these two players. Rabiot.
Yeah.
Again, he kind of falls under the Mason Mount bracket in that he wouldn't be my first choice, but if the manager wants him, then get him in. Also, if he can't even get the manager free transfers that he wants, then we're in all sorts of trouble. Because he's a free, isn't he, Rabiot?
Yeah, he's a good age. What is he, 27, 28?
Yeah, 27.
So he's got a full 5-year contract left in him, legs-wise. You know, you can give him a 5-year deal and you're not going to be stung. I mean, if he's completely shit, you might be stung. But in terms of his age, we're not doing anything silly. I think he's an improvement on McTominay. He's a completely different player to Fred, but I think he comes into that midfield more easily than McTominay does. I just think that's a good signing. Get him for free, get Mount for 40 million or Rice for 70, whatever. Then, you know, a midfield of Casemiro, Bruno, Eriksen, Rice or Mount and Rabiot. That's a good 5 to pick from there.
Yeah.
I think that's a really decent balance. So, yeah, get that done.
Get involved in the comment in the chats and make sure you are hitting that like button as well. We've only got just 300 likes. Let's get to 500 likes. Come on, people. There's lots of people watching. So smash a like. Hit that like button, please. George J says Rabiot is a baller. Ben says Rabiot hit double figures for goals last season. 3 goals says, you all think McT is a CDM? No, I don't think we do. I think we've seen enough of Manchester United and Scott McTominay to know that's not the case. He can play in that role, but it's not what he's really made for. George, sorry, go on.
I think what Scott McTominay is a slightly above average box-to-box midfielder.
Yeah.
That's the problem. He's not good enough on the ball to be a proper box-to-box player. What he's actually good at is working hard, being physical, and actually he's a decent striker of the ball. He can score goals. But he's not good enough. His passing range isn't good enough. You know, we know what he is. He's someone that has to play in one of the roles that United have, and no one really plays with a go out and enjoy yourself box-to-box player anymore, which I think is probably what his best role is.
Yeah, 100%. Just quickly on Zidane Iqbal.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's got his move to the Utrecht. Me and Scott were talking about this earlier on today, and I know obviously we put some on socials last night. You can remember the excitement that. I'm not just saying McCall was the only one, but he highlighted it really well of what it meant to have finally, which was a bit of a joke that it took so long to have a British South Asian representing Manchester United. He was the one that did that, so he'll always be a part of that history. We saw him in pre-season, have a very good pre-season. We met him, seemed like a really nice lad.
That was great.
Yeah, it was. He was such a, you know, it was easy to warm to him, and we wanted to see more of him in the team. We thought we'd get his chance.
Yeah.
Wasn't given a low move, wasn't given any minutes. And then just we saw the likes of Kobe Mainoo leapfrog him, and even when we had injury issues, when Eriksen was out, and when we were trying to get Marcel Sabitzer and players like that in, and other players were out, Fred was out, Zidane never. It was like he wasn't even an option for Erik ten Hag, not even off the bench. It just seemed very weird that he just didn't get that opportunity. And another thing that's slightly odd is just the up to £1 million fee. I know he's not really played any games for Manchester United in the pre-season, but it's quite rare for a 20-year-old who's come from the United squad to go for so little. It's a little bit surprising. I think there's money to be made on the sell-on fee. I think United have a big chunk of that. But yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. I spoke quite a lot on it on Round Our Way, and I wish Zidane Iqbal well. He's a really nice lad, and I hope he sort of reaches the heights that his talents have obviously have sort of made us think he could. Yeah. Just not happening at United.
Big fan of him, and wish him all the best. Absolutely. I think, like I said, that meeting him and spending a bit of time with him and chatting, and just was a nice guy who seemed obsessed with improving and learning and what can he do and listening to the right people. He seems like someone who's smart and has his sort of ducks in a row, as they say in America. He knows what needs to be done, and I thought that would give him more chances this season, that mentality that he seemed to have. It didn't. I think, if you think of it almost as like... So what were the rumoured sort of percentages of the sell-on fee? Did you see a number?
I didn't. I just said it was... I don't know. Can I have a look at that?
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
So let's say it's 30%. I don't know if it will be. I'm just making that.
I'll have a little Google. You guys have a Google and I'll have one as well.
So shout the number out when you hear it. But let's say it's 30%. If he goes to Utrecht and has a really good time, significant. Okay, so let's say he goes to Utrecht. He's brilliant for them, and they sell him for 45 million quid to Dortmund or Bayern or whatever, and United get 15 million of that. That is what we would have got if we'd have loaned him somewhere and he was successful. We saw the money we got for James Garner. What was that, 14 million quid?
Yeah, up to 14 million, I think it was.
Yeah, so we could feasibly get something like that for him if he turns out to be a very good player. I suppose the problem would be, if he turns out to be a very good player, we want him in the first team. To me, I feel bad, and I think we should have given him a loan spell first. But Ten Hag sees him week in, week out. We say we trust the manager. So, unfortunately, even when it comes to players who I like, who I think look very promising, who on a personal level seemed like a really good lad and a good player, unfortunately, we sort of have to trust him in this as well. But it does seem like the fee's pretty low, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Maybe there's a case of, listen, it ain't happening for you here. That's a move that suits you. That's a move that suits us. Let's just get you moved on quickly. I think it was about 850 grand is what the transfer fee is. Also, as well, sometimes with academy players, not all the time, it's easy to forget. You can be. I'm not saying this is the case with Zidane Iqbal, because I think he's a good player, but there have been times when you've had academy players who have been at United in the academy and have been well respected in the academy, and I've watched a few of them over the years where you think he's got something, that kid, he's going to make it, and they end up non-league. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be the case with Zidane Iqbal, but just because you're in United's academy doing well doesn't mean you are set for life. You're not, and we see it a lot. There's a drop off. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? We see it, there's quite a few players out there who've been sort of lower leagues and then ended up in non-league or whatever. So it can happen, but I think Zidane's got enough about him to kick on, and that's a good place to go. And he's still only 20 years old. Do well there, get a move, and then hopefully fulfil your potential.
Hey, and here's the thing: if he turns out to be world class at Utrecht, we can buy him back, and we get 25% of the fee. Do you know what I mean? I reckon there's an accounting way where we could buy him for 50 million in 3 years and actually put that 15 million we get back through the sell-on fee as a different year's books and almost sort of write it off. I reckon tax-wise we can probably get that.
So it pays for itself, basically.
I think we can get that money to pay for itself.
Yeah, I think we donate some of the fee to charity as well, which is tax deductible. Yeah. So we actually make money.
Yeah, but the charity's the Manchester United Foundation. Okay, and it's a non-for-profit, but that means people can still get paid.
Yeah.
And the CEO of the Manchester United Foundation, Eric Ten Hag.
Perfect. We've sold it. Cash money.
None of that is true, and that was libelous. Yeah. Right, let's move on to Harry Kane. This is from Chris Wheeler. Kane hopes on United. Don't really know what those four words mean, but Kane hopes on United is something that I'm reading.
Kane hopes on United.
Is that a thing?
Kane hopes for United?
What happened there, Ethan?
Does it mean Kane's hopes on United? What does it mean?
Oh no, the original headline was Harry Kane hopes Man United resurrect Tottenham's lower 100 million demand. What? Hang on a minute. No, that's it. Harry Kane hopes Man United will resurrect their bid to sign him.
Yeah.
So that, if you sort of crunch that down and use a kind of brainless AI system.
Harry Kane hopes United will resurrect bid.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So what we did is we passed it through PARS. I'm not saying passed.
Yeah.
Passed it through a sort of mindless robot droid of a man, Ethan. And what happened is he sort of crunched down. Character-wise, he's done a sterling job.
Yeah. Character-wise,
it fits in lovely. But in terms of context,
and making
it's fucking
sense.
Nonsense.
Yeah.
So 50-50. On one hand, it fits. On the other hand, it's shit.
Yeah. Because a good headline should tell you more or less what's going on.
Well, no, because Ethan would argue that a truly great headline, a good headline tells you what's happening. A truly great headline makes you sort of fall out with people while still fitting in the constraints provided to you by the template in use. Right, Harry Kane still hopes Manchester United will resurrect their bid to sign him this summer, or as we like to say, Kane hopes on United.
Kane hopes on United.
United have made it clear that they will not do business at £100 million for a player who turns 30 next month. I mean, if we're only getting 20 for Fred, what's Kane worth, 25?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, Fred is essentially the same age.
How many times has Harry Kane absolutely dominated the midfield against City at the Etihad?
I think Funnily enough, probably 2 or 3. Because he does come back deep, doesn't he? He certainly did it.
How many times has he dominated against Paris Saint-Germain?
Yeah, none.
Thank
The
you.
club have ended their interest in Kane for now and moved on to more attainable targets like Atlanta's Rasmus Højlund. A price closer to 80 million, which is what they want for Højlund apparently, could tempt United back to the negotiating table. Levy has also made it clear that he doesn't want to sell Kane to an English club. Kane's clear preference is United, and he hopes that Levy will relent rather than have to write off £80 million. Or as I like to say, Kane hopes on United.
Kane hopes on United. Do you know what the funny thing is, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking about this. If we even had a striker now we could rely on, we could get Kane next summer, you know,
I know,
for
I was
now.
thinking that.
Because I think he's got at least 2 seasons left in him. So even if you got him for 1 season for now, that could be good enough. But I don't know if that's going to happen. We haven't got the luxury of waiting a year because we haven't got a striker, so we need one now.
The thing that you need to remember as well is, I agree with you, and I think that could be done. There's a chance Tottenham finish second next season. I don't think it's likely, but you know we've seen them do it. They could finish third or second. He could sign a new deal. Liverpool could have a brilliant season that is sort of hamstrung by Darwin Núñez not scoring enough goals. He'll have been there 2 years then. They might move him on. They might be in a position to want Kane.
Right, okay.
Haaland could be on his way to Bayern Munich or Real Madrid or whatever.
Yeah.
They might want Kane.
Yeah.
You know, Chelsea might not get their act together this summer. They might need, I know obviously he's less likely to go there because of the London connections.
Yeah.
But there's a chance that they might want Kane. At the minute, United are the only team well placed to sign him. In 12 months, all of that could change. So I don't want it to be this open season where pretty much every team in Europe would like a free Harry Kane.
Yeah.
At the minute, we're one of the few teams with enough money to buy him and the need to buy him and that he'd be willing to join and that isn't a London rival. But that could all be different next season. So I think if there's any chance of getting him, 100 million or under, I would do it. I think he's, we've talked about this, haven't we? And the fact that we're being told, 10 days after pulling out of the deal that we haven't fully pulled out if things change. I mean, I suppose it makes sense, but we're just sort of back to where we were, aren't we? We still want Kane, and we might not get him, but we might.
Back to square one. Brian Kelville says Iqbal overlooked for Manu. Yeah, Manu was getting in the squad, or in the team, I should say, a lot more than Zidane Iqbal, and he's 3 years younger than him as well, so it was a little bit of a surprise there. Whitterbird says, well done everyone for hitting the likes, 502. Yes, well done, up to 530 likes. Let's keep going. Let's get to 600 likes. Yeah. Hit that like button, please, people. And if you're not doing already, make sure you are subscribing to the channel. We're almost at 700,000 subscribers. So with your support, yes, we can get there. Big thank you to everyone who supported the channel as well. Right, let's talk about Onana. Onana. This is the kid who I've literally watched. I'm trying to work out how much I've watched of him.
One game?
Well, I was doing other stuff, so I don't think I can fully say I was engaged in the whole game. And I kind of lost interest once City took the lead. So about 70 minutes of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he was good.
What did you learn in that time?
That if we get him, we'll win the league.
Yeah.
100%. Nailed on.
Yeah.
Well, you've watched him a lot more than that.
I wouldn't say a lot more than that. I've watched him somewhat more than that.
Yeah, at least double the amount of time.
Yeah, I've seen a handful of his games.
I know. Listen,
Ajax and then at Inter.
Talk about it. Go through this and then we'll get into it.
United are set to negotiate with Inter and are considering an offer of around £34 million for Onana. I'm assuming that's going to be €40 million. Ten Hag has made a personal intervention that could halt Chelsea's progress in their move for Andre Onana. Inter's financial concerns mean that he could be available for around £50 million. However, reports have since suggested that Chelsea have pulled out of the race to sign Onana. La Gazzetta dello Sport have claimed that Ten Hag recently called Onana over the phone as a new scenario has opened up due to United's interest. United are set to negotiate with Inter and are considering an offer of around £34 million for Onana, though Inter would want a fee closer to £45 million. This is in conjunction with the idea that De Gea is looking more likely to leave now than to stay, which we've kind of seen grow a little bit. I think Ben Jacobs said something similar. Darmesh, may have been Darmesh instead, or both of them, that both sort of mentioned that. Spurs have also agreed a verbal deal for Empoli keeper Guillermo Vicario. Guillermo Vicario. They were sort of interested in Onana. They were also interested in David Raya. That looks like it's not happening now. Presumably they're not going to spend more than 15 million on 2 different keepers. But they were also into Onana, which is the crucial thing. Ten Hag knows him. I'm pretty sure Ten Hag managed him at Ajax. He did. He definitely did.
Well, he must have done. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, he definitely did. I don't know why I'm questioning that. Ten Hag managed him at Ajax. He knows all about him. He knows how good he is, or certainly how good he was. He's the sort of keeper that, because he's so obsessed with playing it out from the back, he's going to make some silly mistakes. And in the first season, when those De Gea comparisons are at their sort of, brightest, there's going to be, I can imagine already, you really wanted to swap David De Gea for this. And it's him trying to do a Cruyff turn, getting tackled against City, and that's the third goal to make us lose the game. Something like that. Do you know what I mean? There's going to be a lot of comparisons. He's so different to De Gea. He couldn't be more different. He's almost the exact opposite, where his shot stopping is average to good. It's not great. He's not the best goalkeeper in the world. If you put him in the goal in 1950, he would look weird and bad. But in 2023, he's absolutely outstanding with the ball at his feet. As we saw in the Champions League final, he looked like a midfielder playing at the back.
Yeah.
Just depends what Ten Hag values. And it seems like 34 million, it's a lot, but if he's the right guy, get him. I don't know. It just feels like the interest has only come since the Champions League final, which makes me think it's bullshit a little bit.
I do agree with that. I do feel like it's kicked up a notch. And also, I don't really think Erik ten Hag, who's known this kid since he was at Ajax, is just going to go after the Champions League final, right, I need to get him. Do you know what I mean? There would have been,
about him.
Yeah, there would have been interest and rumours, like there have been with so many players United have been in for a lot longer than there has been. Yeah. Also, this stuff about he's been on the phone with him, the same way he was on the phone with Frankie de Jong last season. Frankie de Jong, who plays for Manchester United now, after that smooth transfer we made during the summer.
Is he that blonde guy in the middle?
Yeah, the one that Erik ten Hag rang and just said, do you want to come play for United? And Frankie de Jong went, yeah, sound.
And he arrived like that?
Yeah, he did, didn't he? Because that was what we were hearing last summer, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He's spoken to him over the phone, he's sorted the deal out, yeah, he's coming. Barcelona are happy, they've accepted the fee. The manager spoke to the player, he knows him from Ajax, he's on his way. And it just didn't happen. And it just dragged on and on and on and on and on. And now we're hearing the same thing.
Sorry, on and on and...
On and on. And then he said... sorry.
There was also rumours that he called Højlund.
Oh, sorry,
Højlund
I got confused there when the
that.
producer put video called Højlund, yeah. I thought he meant there was a video called Højlund. Now I get it. He video called him. It's because I'm old and I'm not used to video calls. Yeah. That was like witchcraft when I was growing up, such things.
For a dick pic, you would put
No. For a dick pic, I used to draw them.
Yeah.
With my hands, we draw them on a piece of paper and then deliver them by hand.
Well, what you do as well is, because
there you go. Just dish them out.
Yeah, in an old-fashioned sort of Victorian thing, a lady would spray a perfume.
Yeah.
What you do to really get the dick pic sort of popping, you sort of smear a sort of a couple of milligrams of your smegma.
You see, now you've made it dirty. So I was talking about artistry and hand delivering. Back in the day, that's how we did things in the 90s, yeah? And you've talked about, what was it you called it? Smegma. Smegma.
You want to make the dick pic as realistic as possible.
I will not have...
A little scratch and sniff piece.
I will not have my smegma bandied around this studio willy-nilly.
I think that's a great place to end it, Jay, don't you?
I think it's a great
I'm really sorry.
A lot of things. Just before we do wrap up...
Yeah.
Gary Neville loves a bit of irony, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah, he does.
Gary Neville, right? I think Gary Neville suffers from memory loss. Because I think this is a guy that literally says things that are the opposite of what he's done.
Yeah.
It's like he hammers Qatar, then he goes and works for them. He hammers, capitalism when he's one of the most capitalist people you can meet, with all his businesses and his ownership and his, ventures and the way he's sort of, gentrifying parts of Manchester or whatever he's doing. I don't even know half the time what he's doing. So the latest thing from Gary Neville, I do like Gary Neville, he's a United legend, but there are certain things about him that I just think, what are you on about? And this is one of them. Go on, talk me through this.
Yeah, so he's called for the Premier League to stop the transfers of players to Saudi Arabia. He said that the Premier League should put an instant embargo on transfers to Saudi Arabia to ensure
Donald Trump.
The integrity of the
instant
game.
Embargo on transfers to Saudi Arabia. Yeah, you know what we should do? To stop anything to Saudi Arabia.
Instant embargo.
To Saudi Arabia. Not even transfers, just goods. No goods whatsoever. Nothing to Saudi Arabia. Until we can figure out what the hell is going on.
None of Jay's special smelly pictures are allowed to go there either.
You said you won't bring up my smegma anymore. You've done it straight away.
I didn't mention that. I meant something else. Checks should be made on the appropriateness of the transactions. If it comes through that process What? If it comes through that process, obviously transfers could open up again. But I do believe at this moment in time, transfers should be halted until you look into the ownership structure at Chelsea and whether there has been a beneficial transfer dealings that are improper. Can I ask, did James Wilson ever play for Salford City?
Yes.
Was it Fraser Campbell?
Darren Gibson played there.
There was another striker that used to play for United who went to Salford City as well. I can't remember his name.
Wayne Rooney.
No, he was there in the early 2000s. Anyway, he ended up at Salford City. I wonder if there was any beneficial transfer dealings that were improper going on with a Manchester United legend owning the club that all of a sudden got an influx. I think Ryan Tunnicliffe might have even ended up there. That might not be true.
I love Ryan Tunnicliffe.
Getting an influx of Manchester United players. I think those dealings should be stopped immediately until we find out what's going on.
Right,
it is a weird one, this.
The thing is, I kind of get what he's on about.
Me
because
too.
we're seeing all these players, like Chelsea, want to get rid of a load of players, right? Now, Clear Lake, who own Chelsea, part-owned apparently, or have investments from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And some of these clubs also have that same investment as well. So there's an argument being made that these clubs are doing Chelsea a favour, and it's all, getting around FFP because we're going to buy, I don't know, N'Golo Kante or whoever, N'Golo Kante or Koulibaly. Mendy for a fee that, is probably a little bit more than he's worth.
Hudson-Odoi.
Exactly. So then you can go, right, okay, there's some money, you've brought that in, that's a way around FFP for you to go out and buy more players. It does feel a little bit dodgy, if I'm being honest, it just does. Right? So I kind of get where he's coming from. But things like instant embargoes on transfers to Saudi Arabia, that seems slightly ludicrous. Because there's I don't know enough about Saudi Arabian football, but there could be a Saudi Arabian team that haven't done anything wrong that want to buy a kid from England, and it's like, well, you can't because we've just put an instant embargo on all transfers between English clubs and Saudi Arabia. That's draconian nonsense.
Yeah.
And also this whole checking and investigating and all that sort of stuff. Right, but who's doing this? How's it work?
And on what grounds?
Yeah.
It's two private businesses trading assets, selling each other assets. The problem is, and this is the problem, and this is why whoever takes over Manchester United, there is going to be issues. This is what football is becoming. Whether you like it or not, there is going to be no instant embargo. There will be no stopping it. If Saudi Arabia, if any other state that is owned by the royal family with almost infinite wealth want to pump some of their money into a sport, into boxing, into the Olympics, into the World Cup, whatever it may be, it looks like Saudi Arabia are probably going to get a World Cup in the next few years as well. They will do it. And until the whole structure of football is either rerouted entirely and done a different way, or we just accept, unfortunately, that the game you thought you loved or the game you loved doesn't exist anymore. Because that's what it is. We are now seeing, there was a point where football clubs were owned by a somewhat rich person who had some level of ties to that club. That seemed to be the idea of football. If not, it was owned by the fans, it was owned by the community, it was owned by people in the local area. That was the idea. Now we're literally looking at the most powerful people on earth, businessmen, all men, all the richest people in the world, they own the football clubs. There is no one above this. Do you know what I mean? We are looking at literally, Saudi Arabia is one of the richest nations in the world. They own Newcastle. Like, there is no well, it can't get any bigger than this. So every powerful political play, every geopolitical movement, every you shake my hand, I scratch your back, you scratch mine, everything you can imagine is happening now, and this is what football is. So it's shit, and it's going away from everything that we grew up watching, but that's what it is now. So Gary Neville, you can't ask for it. You can't. This isn't going to happen because Saudi Arabia are more powerful than the FA. They're more powerful than the Premier League. They're more powerful than UEFA. They're more powerful than FIFA. That Saudi Arabian league will be in the Super League, the Europa League, the Champions League, whatever it's called, within 15 years if they want it to be. They will restructure the whole thing where you've got all the European teams and 3 teams from Saudi Arabia are in the new Super League. That will happen if they want it to, because these are literally the most powerful human beings on earth.
I think it's nailed on. I think you will have some sort of Super League or a league that incorporates teams from the Middle East. And it does change. I don't think the Super League is that sort of idea is dead in the water.
No.
I think it's dead for now, but I think it will be sort of resurrected, if you will. And I think, that is the way it's going. There has been a little bit of sort of. Do you remember? I know it's not the same. I'm not just using this to bash Manchester City, but do you remember when New York City bought Frank Lampard?
Yeah.
And it was like they bought him for Chelsea, and then immediately it was like, oh, actually no, He's playing for Manchester City.
Yeah.
And that wasn't what they announced him as a New York City player, and then realised actually Pep said I could use him, or whoever it was at the time, as Pellegrini was manager, I can't even remember, but whoever it was at the time, we can use him here. Yeah. So he went and moved to City. So you're going to get this. You're going to get like club entities that own clubs using that sort of relationship for their benefit. It is going to happen. It isn't great. I do actually get what Gary Neville's on about. I just don't agree with his idea of fixing it. And instant embargoes on transfers to Saudi Arabia just seems like something that is relatively unworkable and probably a little bit overly harsh. And I've got no great love for state-owned clubs whatsoever. No. I just think that that's probably not workable.
But it's all going to, it will all be reworked, remoulded. Because, just last thing.
No, go on. So I've got
there'll be 2 points that will be very easy to make about the Saudi Arabian League in about 5 years' time. If they keep acquiring players the way they are doing now, a mixture of, Benzema's and Messi's, I know he hasn't gone there, but Ronaldo's and those sorts of players at the end of their career, and Hudson-Odoi's and Neves and those players, in 5 years' time, there will genuinely be the argument that in terms of quality, the Saudi Arabian League is probably the 6th or 7th best league in the world.
Yeah.
That won't be very long until that happens. And then once you make that argument that if you want to see the best product in world football, you need this league in the Champions League. That's one argument. The second one is, if Russia is in the Champions League, if you fly to the east side of Russia, that is much further away than Saudi Arabia is by plane. That can take you 12, 13 hours to get right over near sort of China. You can get to Saudi Arabia. It's not a distance issue. Russia are in. Yeah. So, the Middle East is as close to Europe as Russia. If you go from Turkey to Saudi Arabia, that's much closer than Portugal to Russia. So the distance thing won't be an issue either. It will literally just be control, power, and whatever the idea behind this whole thing is, because it's come from somewhere, hasn't it? It's exploded. Someone in the Saudi Arabian football, or the investment firms have decided this is our new tactic, so they will get what they want because the money is endless, and we've already seen UEFA and FIFA are as bribable as any human being on earth, so if they want it, it'll happen.
100%. Sweaty legend has gifted one Stretford Paddock membership. Thank you for that, brother. Daddy Fatsack, welcome to the first team as well.
Oof. Somehow that's not the worst thing that's been said on this video.
No, it's not, is it? It's a super joke. You've got to read it out. Listen, thank you, H. Dan Liam. Says, J-Mate, you are looking great, by the way. Thank you.
You are. You're looking really trim.
Honesty. Right, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Despite you waving my, what was it you called it? Smegma. Around this, around this live stream willy-nilly. I'm not here tomorrow. It's going to be you all day, innit? Joe Smith Bonanza, McCullough's going to be here, Webby's going to be here.
What a day.
From Webby and O'Neill, obviously, big love to him. Make sure you're checking that out as well. If you've not done it already as well, go and check out some of the other videos you've been interviewing some good people, haven't you? You've got Ben Jacobs, who's been sort of one of the main voices when it comes to the takeover as well. So go and check that out. Plus, you had McCullough's news from this morning. You had Round Our Way earlier today. We have got you covered. So make sure you are hitting like, share, and subscribe. Joe, where can people find you?
Joe Smith 93 on Instagram and Twitter.
You know how to find me as well, Jay Motte. That's been Joe. I've been Jay. This has been Transfers Live. Thanks for watching.